You are 26 years old, 8 months into a 7-year sentence. The man who ran things dies of a heart attack right there in the yard. No warning, no succession plan, no final instructions, just 300 men calculating the same thing. What happens now, and who decides it? You are not the obvious choice, not the biggest, not the most feared. What you are is the person who spent 8 months watching. Who eats with whom, who owes what, which guard runs which corridor. You built a map, not because you plan to use it, because it's how you survive when you have nothing else. It turns out one person with a complete map is worth more than 10 people with muscle and no information. Within 2 days, you've had 4 conversations, not meetings. Meetings are visible. Visibility is a liability. The man who controls distribution in the North Block, the man whose cousin works intake, his cooperation costs almost nothing. He just needs to be retained. The man who manages the debt ledger, not the product, just the accounting, which turns out to be the more valuable skill. And the woman who visits 3 separate inmates every month. Her bag has never once been searched thoroughly. By the end of day 2, you have made 4 commitments you are not entirely sure you can keep, and 1 principle you will not negotiate. Nothing moves without your knowledge. You don't need to control everything. You need to know everything. Control is downstream of information. The economy you inherit runs on 4 primary currencies: commissary goods, ramen, coffee, tobacco. A ramen packet is $1. Everyone knows it. Everyone accepts it. You cannot counterfeit a ramen packet. You cannot inflate it. Its value is anchored to something real. The second currency is contraband phones, not currency, infrastructure, the nervous system of everything. The third currency is narcotics, highest margins, highest risk. You manage it through intermediaries from day 1. The fourth currency is protection, not a product, a guarantee. And a guarantee is only as valuable as the credibility behind it. Building that credibility without deploying violence is the central challenge of your first year, and the thing you are most proud of getting right. The phones are 11 in total, distributed across the facility in a pattern that accounts for the security rotation. Each phone moves between 3 to 5 custodians, depending on the rotation and how closely the facility is being watched. The phones connect you to 4 people on the outside. 1 handles money movement, legitimate transactions making the illegitimate ones invisible. 1 handles supply coordination, getting product from outside to inside through your intake relationships. 1 handles family services. A man inside with a drug debt has people outside who love him and who will pay. The price is always negotiable, high enough to matter, low enough that it gets paid. Because a refused payment means violence or a loss, and both cost more than a lower price would have. The guards require more sustained attention than any other part of the system. You made an early decision not to own guards. Explicit arrangements can be documented, testified to. What you maintain instead are a set of mutual understandings in the space between what is said and what is known. A correction officer who receives a reliable monthly transfer, his girlfriend's account. He knows what it means. A sergeant whose brother has a pending case, certain information can move in certain directions. You have never stated these arrangements explicitly. They have never needed to be stated. The most durable agreements are the ones that cannot be recorded because they were never formally made. By the middle of your 3rd year, the operation clears between $10,000 and $15,000 monthly. You have lost 4 phones to shakedowns, 1 outside contact lost to an unrelated rest, 6 weeks rebuilding that node before the gap became critical. Then a man transfers in from upstate, his own relationships, his own assumptions about how things work. He spent his first 3 months undercutting your pricing in 2 blocks. You resolved it not through confrontation, through supply restriction, and a conversation facilitated by a third party, reframing the situation as coordination rather than competition. He is now one of your 4 block-level managers. His operation runs through your infrastructure. The resolution cost you 2 months of reduced margins and 0 violence. Violence is the assumption everyone brings to this subject from the outside. Violence is the most expensive tool available. It generates administrative response, destabilizes trust, creates enemies with nothing left to lose. You use the credible threat of violence the way a state uses its military. The value comes from perception, not demonstration. In 4 years, 3 situations resulted in physical force, all 3 executed by others, at a distance. All 3 came only after every other resolution had been exhausted. You do not celebrate these moments, you treat them as operational failures. You analyze each one for the earlier intervention that would have made it unnecessary. You have 14 months remaining on your sentence.
3 years ago.
14 months would have felt like relief. Now it feels like a logistics problem. The operation will not survive your departure intact. Nothing this dependent on one person ever does. The goal is not preservation. The goal is a transition that does not collapse violently. You have been grooming 2 people for 18 months. Neither of them knows. Both have demonstrated patience, intelligence, and restraint, the 3 things the role requires. You will not formally hand anything over. The transition happens through gradual withdrawal. By the time you walk out the door, the system is already running without you. The only thing your departure changes is which name sits at the center of the map. You sit an evening count with 300 men. You run the numbers for the month. The math works. The transition timeline holds. Somewhere outside these walls, 14 months of calendar pages are waiting to be turned. You do not know what you are when you leave here. You know what you are now. You begin again.